Good afternoon. I'm Ernie Bauer with the CSIS Southeast Asia program here in Washington. We're very lucky today to have Ambassador Muhamad Noor Yacob, who is the Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat in Singapore. APEC is the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, and it includes 21 countries. Ambassador Noor is one of Malaysia's most senior trade officials, and he is seconded to the Secretariat in Singapore. Welcome, Ambassador. Thank you for taking time to talk with us today.
Thank you, Annie.
Could you tell us a little bit about APEC and what is your job as the Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat?
The role of the Secretariat is basically to help members go about implementing its agenda of free trade and investment for the region. We help members to work out the agenda, organize the meetings, and provide some ideas for members as to how to move forward on our agenda.
Yeah. How big is your team in Singapore?
62.
Okay.
62.
So 62 staff for a 21 economy grouping. That's a pretty lean operation.
Yes, it is very lean. We also operate on a very lean budget. In fact, one of the first things when I came on board last year was to put up a 3-year plan, based, of course, on a strategic plan for the Secretariat. The basic objective of which is to improve our professionalism and to support members. Again, the budget, we have worked on a budget of standstill, effectively, for the next 3 years. Basically because we understand that when I came on board, we are in the midst of the economic crisis, trying to, so we have to be sensitive to the members. The members are spending money on pump-priming the economy, finances are not so good, so we have to be sensitive to members. So we are trying to do better with a zero growth budget.
Could you say a little bit about how APEC came to be? I think the United States is the chair this year, so a lot of Americans are probably wondering, what is President Obama planning to do this year in Hawaii, and how did we get to this place?
Well, APEC was formed in 1989. It comprises of 21 economies. This year, U.S. is chairing APEC. Very much the motto for APEC this year is get stuff done, which, as I said, reflects the intentions of the United States, which is to get concrete outcomes from the APEC meetings this year under the chairmanship of the United States. To elaborate, among the things that we are trying to do is to move ahead with our agenda of trade and investment liberalization, to better achieve economic integration, to address some of the environmental concerns. To use the words of the United States, we are trying to promote green growth. The other third priority the U.S. has identified is to improve what we call regulatory convergence and regulatory cooperation amongst APEC economies. So these are the 3 concrete items which the U.S. has identified as the priorities for this.
When you say regulatory convergence, could you say what that means what would that mean for a small and medium-sized businessman?
Yeah, but particularly for small businesses, regulations differ from economy to economy, which makes it difficult particularly for small businesses if you want to export. In one market, the regulations are such; in another market, it's different. Therefore, you have to produce your goods that you want to export, which will have to meet very different regulations, very different requirements. So if we can have regulatory convergence, regulatory cooperation, make things more transparent, at least, that will definitely make it easier for small businesses to operate across boundaries, export. So I agree with you that this is particularly important for small businesses.
Exactly. When you talk about APEC and President Obama will be hosting the leaders from the other 20 economies, We're talking about a major commitment of governments to prepare their leaders for this meeting every year. You know, there's been a lot of talk about evolving architecture in the Asia-Pacific, security architecture, trade architecture. Could you talk a little bit about how APEC fits into those architectures?
Yeah. Basically, APEC's role is to promote trade and investment liberalization. Because we believe that through open trading and investment environment, it will be mutually beneficial. It will help to promote the economic growth, help to create jobs, help to reduce poverty. But in addition, whilst we are focusing on our own agenda, which is already quite a handful for us, we welcome the focus on other aspects, for example, security, political cooperation. Those are not conflicting to my mind. In fact, they're complementary to each other, and in fact, they do help to achieve the common objective of prosperity and peace for our peoples.
Yes. The membership of APEC, 21 economies, it does not include India, and I think 3 of the ASEAN 10 members are not members of APEC. Is there a moratorium on new membership, and how does that work? Could other countries eventually join?
Yeah, there was a moratorium on APEC membership that lasted until last year. But I think at last year, the leaders decided that they will review the matter going forward, taking into account, on the one hand, the benefits of APEC membership, and on the other, the need for efficiency in the operations of APEC.
One of the big items on the minds of American business right now is trade, of course, and we're hoping, I think, from a business community point of view, they're hoping that the Americans will pass the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement and the Colombian-Panama Free Trade Agreements, and then move on to something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. How does the TPP relate to APEC? Is it part of APEC, or how do you see that?
Well, the APEC is not a negotiating forum.
Okay.
Whereas the TPP negotiations aim for a formal agreement amongst the participants of that negotiation. But APEC, one of APEC's objectives is to realize what we call the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, the formal trade agreement, concrete. But APEC will retain its role as a non-negotiating forum. But the leaders have assigned us a very clear role in that respect, as an intellectual forum for exchange of views on what we call the 21st century trade issues. And that is very much supportive of the Trans-Pacific Agreement, because the aim of the participants of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is to achieve a high-quality agreement addressing what we call the 21st century trade issues, such as cloud computing, e-commerce, and so on. So APEC will provide the forum for intellectual exchange on some of these issues. We will act as incubator for some of the ideas, and in that way contribute to the negotiations on the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which is also going to, on the other hand, going to contribute to our objective of establishing a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific.
As President Obama gets ready to host the leaders this November in his home state of Honolulu, he's going to need to be prepared, and he's going to need to be briefed. If you were briefing President Obama and he invited you out to Camp David, and he said, "Ambassador, what are the 3 things I need to know before I go to Hawaii to host the APEC leaders meeting?" What would be those 3 top things that you would tell the president?
The first time I arrived in the United States, I was in 1981, August 1981. I landed at O'Hare Airport on the way to Madison, in Wisconsin, to study there. until I arrived, until then, all my perception of America was what I got through the TV cowboy movies, the daytime soaps, and that sort of thing.
Right.
But when I arrived in America and stayed there,
We don't have cowboys in Madison.
and stayed there, my perception of the United States changed,
Yes.
and changed for the positive. The APEC meetings will bring in leaders, will bring in ministers, will bring in senior officials, businessmen to various parts of the United States. In other words, the APEC meeting will bring in your customers into the showroom. If you are a salesman, that's how you should see it. And the US has, the US has got a lot. It is a very diverse, very innovative, a country of very hardworking people. Your education system, many of the best universities in the world are here. So I think the APEC meetings this year provide US an opportunity to showcase your economy. I think if people come here, so many things that you have to show that will benefit not only just the United States, but will also benefit, as I have, people who come to the United States and get to know the United States.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure the President would love to hear that bit of advice, and I hope he takes it. Thank you very much for coming, Ambassador Noor, and good luck on your meetings this week. Thank you.